Hello and welcome to this program, which I have dubbed In the Interest of Humanity. My name is Alhaji Irbad Ibrahim from the Republic of Ghana. Paul Kagame, the current leader of Rwanda, is seen as a very successful African leader. He's a leader that has taken Rwanda from the ashes of civil war to the enviable status of a booming economy on the continent. That is a shining example and a light for the rest of the countries on this great continent of ours. But is it that some people in the world or some countries in the world are apprehensive about the meteoric development that Rwanda is seeing? And gradually, we are seeing a change in narrative. After the 1994 genocide, when Paul Kagame came out from being a rebel leader to becoming a civilian leader, we saw very good reportage about him transforming his country. But gradually, the reportage is now teetering on the brink of negativity. So I think we need to get things right and put the Western media right where they are wrong. Of course, we don't antagonize Western values or Western reportage of this continent. It's a free world, and every camera lens determines what aspect of the African continent to magnify. But then we just have to be just and equitable when we are reporting on the good things that we are achieving or chalking on this continent. And Paul Kagame, for me, is a shining example in that regard. From genocide to an enviable status under the tutelage of a visionary leader. But then, day in and day out, the reportage we are seeing is now portraying him as a dictator or an authoritarian. I'll go through a few of the headlines we have. This is from somebody who has written about Paul Kagame in The Economist. And The Economist newspaper is a well-known newspaper with a global reach. And the headline is, "Many Africans see Kagame's Rwanda as a model. They are wrong. Who are you to tell us that the progress we are seeing in Rwanda, go to Kigali and see how beautiful the city has become. Systems are working, structures are in place. Rwanda is the, emerging force to be reckoned with on the continent and other parts of the world. It has a booming economy. There is discipline in the country. There is good sanitation." And someone sitting in a Western capital somewhere has the effrontery to write that we see such progress as a model. We are wrong. So I keep wondering, when the IMF comes, Bretton Woods institutions, when the United Nations and all its agencies come to Africa and say they want our freedom, they want our democratization, they want our progress, what else is different from the progress we are seeing in Rwanda? What better can be offered us? So is it that some people are playing a policeman's role, determining the extent to which we can progress, and at some point that progress has to be rolled back because somebody feels threatened? So how do you write about the progress in Rwanda, which serves as a model for us on the continent, and say that we are wrong to see that as a good example? And again, the same Economist newspaper has this headline, "Paul Kagame, feted and feared, celebrated in one breath and feared in another, Rwanda and its president." The same Economist newspaper. And then DW TV has this headline as well. And these are recent headlines. The other two came from 2017. This one is from 2019 by DW. It says Rwanda's President Kagame stokes tension with neighbors. What tension is Kagame stoking with his neighbors? As we speak, there is going to be a summit in Namibia. Look, Uganda is welcoming Kagame. All other countries are welcoming Kagame. Why would people want to create a sense of tension and insecurity and uncertainty where there is none? In another headline, this comes from the Guardian newspaper in the UK. It says how President Paul Kagame crushed Rwanda's free press. How President Kagame crushed Rwanda's free press. Look at the choice of words. Very strong words, just to create a negative imagery of the man in our minds. Then a man called David Himbara wrote in the Medium, he says, Kagame is a trafficker of African refugees. Negative reportage. Africa, the Paul Kagame model on this continent has showed that Africa does not need handouts. Africa doesn't need donor support. What Africa needs to progress is political stability. Political stability. Where there is political instability, like in Ghana and Nigeria, and please understand me when I talk about political instability, I don't mean transitions are tumultuous. I don't mean changes in government are marked by violence. I mean there is no stability in terms of the political will to carry out long-term developmental projects. Ghana and Nigeria have had some of the most successful political transitions. We have had the most elections, we have had the most changes in government. But what do we see? Our youth are still bracing the storm, traveling through the hostility of the desert, crossing a perilous Mediterranean Sea to seek greener pastures elsewhere. So political stability for me, it's not underpinned by going to the polls every 4 years or 5 years and you change your government or have a new president every now and then. But then those important indices for your socio-economic development that waver and vacillate because of changes in government, how have you been able to tackle those issues? So Africa doesn't need constant change in government. Africa needs a stable political atmosphere where we have one government in post or at post, rule for a certain period of time so that the vision of the government will materialize. But if after every 4 years you have to change your government, there is no political stability in the true sense of the expression. So Paul Kagame soon will be 21 years in power. And for the first 2 terms of 7 years each, the first 14 years, its performance was spectacular. And the people of Rwanda carried out a referendum and a constitutional change, an amendment that gives the country more political stability for the man to make good on his vision for his people. Then the negative reportage continues about Paul Kagame. The negative reportage, writing negatively about our leaders, creating demons, Frankensteins, monsters out of them, so that their own people will turn against them. And look at this one, how Rwanda's Paul Kagame's bad relations could cause destabilization. Then, this is from Politico.com, Rwanda, the darling tyrant. Then, this also came from TheRoot.com. It says 4 reasons Rwandan President Paul Kagame is not Papa Africa saving slaves. So, a torrent of negative reportage we are seeing, and there seems to be an astronomical increase. There is an uptick in such negative reportage about Paul Kagame since the year 2019 started? Where are we headed? Is somebody trying to stir up revolt against the man in his own country? Or somebody is terrified? Somebody is scared of the quantum leap that Rwanda is witnessing under the leadership of Paul Kagame. In his own words, Paul Kagame says the narrative has to change. If close to a quarter of a century ago, all the things you heard about Rwanda was about genocide, famine, suffering, oppression, the killing of women and children, carnage and savagery, he says the narrative has to change. You can't judge a modern progressive Rwanda with the parameters of the past. Listen to Paul Kagame in this short clip.
There is a story, there is a narrative maybe about Rwanda that has been formed 25 years ago. And that's the story that keeps going on about us. Even if things have changed, it's the same story. We have built a stable society, a stable economy. Everything is still work in progress, but you can measure and understand where we have been and where we are now. And sometimes you want to think, is there a reason behind it? Is there a reason why people would want this story to keep running?
So Paul Kagame is wondering who stands to benefit from the negative reportage about Africa. This continent is blessed with all the things it needs to progress. Rich natural resources, a fertile land, water bodies that are countlessly dotted across the continent. All we need is strong leadership. And for those that think that political dissidents should be given the free will to sabotage the state, you are wrong. The Paul Kagame model shows that you need to keep political dissidents at bay. God didn't create all of us to be leaders. Allah did not create every human being to be a ruler. That is why when you look at our own cultural and traditional history as a continent, there are tribes that are seen as the ruling class or the royals, and there are tribes that are seen as business people or scholars in whatever area or human discipline you may want to look at. Look at the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom grew into the world leader it became, a world superpower that ruled, by some estimates, a quarter of the world, not because it was changing kings and queens. It was because it had in place a traditional system that saw the final authority centralized around the throne. So today, if certain countries want to create a semblance of a political stability where one person rules for about maybe 2 decades or 3 decades, Libya under Gaddafi ruled for a little over 4 decades. Libya had the best of amenities. Libya had the best of social services on the continent. So let's wake up as Africans. Let's not allow people to play a supervisory role over us. The days of colonialism and slavery are over. We need to be on our feet, set our own standards, and live by them. Let's not allow people that have over the centuries benefited from kinships tell us that it is wrong to have one leader for more than a number of years or for a certain number of years. If the leader is good enough, if the leader is visionary enough and is taking your country on this African continent to the promised land, what is the essence in changing him or her in case you have a female leader? So therefore, the Paul Kagame model trumps all of these theories that Africa can't stand on its feet. The Paul Kagame model shows that Africa does not need subsistence from the West. It shows that Africa can be self-sufficient. It shows that Africa can go beyond donor support. which serves as a life wire for most countries on this continent. But if there is political stability, you maintain one president, one government that is getting things right, then you will be the envy of not only other countries on the continent, but the envy of others that feel apprehensive. Look, Paul Kagame has had enough money for his country. He wants to rub shoulders with the West. And the gentleman is carrying out nuanced movements that show that we can be co-equals with our former colonial masters. Who talks about colonialism today? We should be partners in development. We live in a global, economy or a globalized community that has continents depending on other continents, countries depending on other countries. The days of donor aid coming to Africa should end. We shouldn't be going to them cap in hand all the time. It makes us feel inferior. The Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, may the blessings and peace of God be upon him, said, Al-yadul uliya khayrun min al-yadi sufla. The upper hand that gives is better than the lower one that receives. And Paul Kagame, I'm sure, if he even has to sit with the IMF will not push, conditionalities down his throat. He will object to those conditionalities that will not help him and his people. So the dynamics have to change. Africa should be seen as a co-player, a co-partner in global development rather than playing second fiddle to other countries. The man even decided to do something with Arsenal, the Arsenal Football Club, just to send a strong message that days of Africa being a dumping site of donor support, those days are over. And what hurts me is that such an individual should get the unfettered support of the African Union. He should get the unfettered support of IGAD, the East African Bloc. He should get the unfettered support of blacks in the diaspora. He should get the unfettered support of the United Nations. He should get the unfettered support of the whole world. The man moved this country from a civil war-torn country to a model that serves as a shining example on the African continent. What else can we give him in return, apart from giving him our support? This negative reportage, these negative headlines that seek to cast him as a tyrant that gives no space for political dissidents would not help Rwanda. And just like Libya, if the people of Rwanda take the bait and rise up against their leader, they will be counting their blessings in the past and will only be living in nostalgia for the days of Gaddafi, the way Libyans are doing, if the people of Rwanda tread that path. May God continue to bless us, and may God continue to give us visionary leaders that will take this orphan continent up, dust it, and make it the envy of the world. Thank you for your time. And for those who would want to continue the African debate, you can hit us up via email from wherever you are in the world at Peace Ambassador 2016, and all of that in one word, Peace Ambassador 2016 in figures, Peace Ambassador 2016 at gmail.com. See you soon and take care. Bye-bye.